BlackRock. It's interesting. They say it's their ambition to tokenize the entire world, every financial asset there is. But when we look at crypto, they're missing a very big one, aren't they? They're missing XRP. Why don't they tokenize that sucker and launch an ETF? We've seen Bitwise, Canary, a whole bunch of Grayscale. They've launched XRP ETFs and they've had success. There is demand out there. There is volume. So it's not a demand problem. It's not there aren't any people out there that want to invest in the product. So what else? Well, is it concerns over regulations? Well, XRP is the singular digital asset where a judge ruled this is not a security. It can trade on the open market. It has the best regulatory clarity out of any asset in the world. So we're running out of excuses here. And we could run through a lot of scenarios, but to me, it's one thing. They are simply waiting. They are waiting. They are accumulating. They are building out a position quietly until they launch here. And they want as much action as they can right now in Bitcoin and Ethereum because that pushes their advantage. And they have time, let's be honest. The market hasn't taken off. It's not some roaring success. Crypto has been one of the underperforming assets. We saw gold have a great run. We've seen tech stocks hold up better. It's just not the place to be right now. And so it makes sense they're not going to flood the market with a bunch of crypto products. I think they've shown they know what they're doing. And when the time is right and when this space is ready to take off, I think you'll see them jump in here. And launch that sucker. They're not going to concede this market. But in this point in time, with most ETFs out there, it's just outflow city. Why jump in here? Why get involved? Just try to keep IBIT with Bitcoin, Ethereum, keep those stable. Keep them as high as you can, and when the time is right, they are going to strike. It's a simple business. If they have customers, if it's something legal to offer them, if people want to put their investment dollars somewhere, BlackRock's going to have a product for that. You best believe. And I think XRP, it's going to be a popular asset with some of your big investors. I put this chart today on X, and I put the following. XRP led the crypto market in early January, outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum by nearly 3x. And if you go over to X, you can see that chart. It's quite striking. It shows XRP was accelerating. Then the macro wiped out everything. In 2 weeks, we lost all of our gains here. But what this clearly shows is when there are catalysts firing, especially in a good market condition, that XRP, it moves faster and harder than anything else in the market, at least your large cap cryptos here. And Ethereum got hit the hardest since this sell-off began. Bitcoin, it held up the best, but XRP kind of sits between those. So that's going to be a desirable diversifier for someone's crypto investment, isn't it? Because you have a cryptocurrency that it doesn't go down the most. It's kind of right there in the middle between hedging Ethereum and Bitcoin. But when it does go up, it goes up, well, 3x. That's what we saw in January. Now, it's going to accelerate faster. So this is a great asset to have in your portfolio. It's kind of middle ground in terms of downwards volatility. And probably a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's undervalued, right? There's going to be limits on how far you sell it down. But when this space takes off, it's going to outperform, and that's exactly what you want. Something that doesn't give you maximum downside, but gives you a lot of upside potential here when things turn around, and they will. They always do in this market. Remember, BlackRock, they don't chase things. If you're BlackRock, you don't announce until you're in position, until you're ready. We're going to see it happen here, I think, sooner than later. Now, Attorney Bill Morgan, great commentator, not just on the legal stuff, but the market in general. And he says the following: silence from XRP influencers who proclaim the supply shock narrative due to ETFs just a few months ago. I'll tell you this, it's not just ETFs. It's trading coming back to the U.S. and Coinbase and Robinhood and Kraken and all the other exchanges and ETFs with quite a bit of inflows in aggregate there. It makes a difference because remember this, what was peak FOMO in 2021? $1.80, what are we, 40 cents off of that? Further, we spent most of our time, other than a very small stretch in 2018 and a little bit of time in 2021, we're perpetually under $1. Here we're at $1.40 at kind of peak bearishness. People think the world's coming to an end. XRP still above $1 at a great position to launch. These things, from ETFs to listings to court cases getting over, they make a difference. Don't fool yourself. We may not be ultimately where we want to go, but we are miles ahead of where we used to be when it was just 20 cents, 20 cents, 20 cents every freaking day, year after year. We've come a long ways, and all of this stuff builds up to make a difference over time. Now, specifically to Bill's point, I mean, ETFs can be a double-edged sword, right? Like, when times are good, they're going to vacuum up a lot of supply off the market, where you have XRP available for trade, but when times are bad, right, they can spill out. You have outflows. You have XRP being sold onto the market. It can have a dual effect. But either way, the net aggregate here, we have a lot of XRP sitting in ETFs, and it's going to grow. And we have not seen a bull run yet with an XRP ETF where you can really get what that effect will be, because it's going to be popular if nothing else, and it's just not Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it's a big crypto, and people are going to want some diversification there. And again, it makes sense from what I just said. On the upside, it's got more juice there than the other ones. And the downside is kind of in the middle. This is a great asset. This is one that investors are going to want. It makes sense in their portfolio. It gives them diversification, and it's going to let them outperform just Bitcoin or just Ethereum. And that's what's going to matter. Does it have a purpose in the portfolio? Does it lead to higher gains over the long term? If yes, people are going to want it. And that's the case with XRP. Let's be honest here. Now, my disclaimer here, I'm no geopolitical expert, but I put an X article up. I'll link it down below. We got a lot of scary stuff happening in the world right now. And specifically, of course, we saw what happened in Venezuela and now Iran. And I went over to the U.S. Threat Assessment. It's a report they put out every year. And the last one they put out, they don't name Iranian nuclear weapons or biological weapons or anything else as a top threat, nor Venezuela. But the number one threat that the U.S. government is looking at, well, it's China. In that report, at least, what they put out to the public, which should mirror their internal reports with all of the, secret stuff pulled out of there, all the classified stuff. I suggest you go over and take a read of this, and why I think is because it shows what's going to happen going forward. It's been a very busy year. We're at the very start of March, and we've already, had two conflicts with two countries. And my point is, I think it's going to expand. I think a window opens in 2027. Doesn't mean it'll happen there, but it's about a 3-year window where something might happen with China, and I think they're trying to front run that. And when you look at the world events under those lenses, it starts making a little more sense. And it can help you see what's on the short horizon. This is probably not over. This is probably not the last conflict we will have this year, and it likely will not be due to the drivers that you'll hear from the media or even from the government. The things they say don't make a lot of sense until you really dig in and say, okay, that's the legal justification for doing what you're doing, but there's probably an ancillary reason. And in my mind, that's it. Getting ready for that window when we may have a move on Taiwan, and you want to cut off oil and different resources. And then you start seeing Cuba, Colombia, the Panama Canal, and Greenland, and some other strategic areas that are named in this report that might be useful under that lens, under that idea. And I think that's kind of what we see going on. Why does that matter for us? Well, this may be a year of quite a bit of turmoil for investors. And if I'm right, you haven't seen anything yet. This is just going to pick up the pace. And I thought reading that threat analysis with what's going on in the world, it kind of paints a clearer picture than the official story they're telling you. I'll link it down below. Check it out. Let me know what you think. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.